Mr. Douglas.
Well, my agenda is very short. I guess I was just wondering where we stood. I hadn't heard a word from anyone, and how we stood on that well, and I see we're drilling another one.
Two more.
Two more. And what's your thing looking forward?
Well,
And I'm heading for Florida before too long, and I'd like to uncover a little bit of the sand.
It's nice weather and you're going to Florida?
Oh, no, just thinking about it.
Oh.
Well, we'll bring you up to speed on
Okay.
what's going on. Obviously, we asked you for permission to drill a well there, and you said we could put a well there.
Hmm?
So, and we did. And we went down 1,000 feet. And what was it getting per gallon? Can't remember.
I do not remember. I thought they said something like 13 to 15 is the number I kind of remember, but I don't
12
know.
is what figure I get thrown at. Yeah.
Okay.
But I know in the end it did run over.
We applied to the state of Vermont for a permit to use that well as an emergency source of water. And that's you'll see that pipe sticking out of the ground prior to the reservoir. Then there's a rubber hose runs out of that and goes into the reservoir. It's water from the well that's on your property. Where it got to be where it is you need 200 feet around the well for proper perking or whatever it is. And we measured from our boundary, which is next to Vance Hill, 200, and I think Mike went out 225 feet just to make sure that's where we bored. It is on your land partly. We have been using that well as an got a permit to use it. We had to go through testing, that all got done. It's a very good source of water, and very good water in that it doesn't need to go through the arsenic filtration, such as the two wells up above. So, and with the utilization of that, we haven't had to haul water. That well has been a good well.
But we've had to boil water.
Right. There is a boil or water order in place because it is a water source that is not piped into the system. In other words, to have an emergency source of water, the state says you need to have at least, I can't remember the feet, 10 feet, 15 feet or something.
Airborne.
Smaller. Anyway, this has to be a section where the water comes up and stops and the reservoir and a well is here. There cannot be a direct hookup.
Has to be airborne.
Right. For an emergency source of water. And because of that, then you have a boil water order, because the water is going through a rubber hose out up in the ground. And we did ask the state about long-term putting that well online. And Ken Yelsey and Jeff Hoffer, we were all up here looking at different sites and looked at that well. And because of its proximity, how are you, Gene?
Good.
Good. Because of its proximity to local wells, in other words, one right across the street, and the state didn't like the idea of having that as a well put online. They were okay with it currently as an emergency source of water. So then we looked at other sites, came up with where we're drilling right now. Because we only were given at the very beginning after we got the permit, 90 days?
Correct.
To use that well.
And that was back last November?
Right after it got drilled, and then right after we started using, or we couldn't use it until the state said, you can use it. And when they got the letter authorizing us to use that well, it had a 90-day time frame on it. And it said you will cease use of that well in 90 days. But of course, in the wintertime and in the process of going through looking for a long-term fix, Ken Yelsey was here and we identified where we're drilling now. And I wrote a letter to, and I can't remember the engineers or the head of it, firm in state of Vermont, but he gave us permission to use that well until January 1, 2017. Hence, get everything done prior to that. And then said at January 1, 2017, you will cease use of that well. So, that's where we're at. So we are pumping water out of it, daily basis. It has saved us from hauling water. And,
I've checked it quite a few times and I haven't caught it not running. Is it run, are you running it 24 hours a day now?
no,
No,
No?
they
usually
will,
just all day long.
All during the day?
yeah, Mike will shut it off sometime at night after he gets done bowling, or Nate will turn it on when he's going to work in the morning, or there's a process.
I get up late and go to bed early again.
We do utilize it. So, and from the board's perspective, I think it would be a great addition to the system as a emergency source of water. Now, I say that, but I don't know for sure. State has said after January 1, you will no longer use it. I don't know if that's gonna require us to pull a pump. And they could do that. They could say, okay, January 1, you're done, take the pump out. So, and I don't know. But anyway, it would still be there.
The hole ain't going nowhere.
The hole ain't going nowhere. So, that brings us to, what would you like to do? Would you like to sell the property that it's on? I mean, I think it would be a great addition to the town as an emergency source
You
of
could buy
water.
the property, but according to that little map, I got a copy of that map somewhere. They must have sent me one from Yeltsin. And you've got to have that 200-foot radius.
Right,
Got it? So you either got to have control over it or own it, one or the other, right?
right. So we would be looking at the other half of the circle.
I'm comfortable. Doesn't bother me a bit one way or the other. And let's see how you make out with your new wells. If it's gonna be a permanent fix, I think we should start talking about some compensation.
Okay,
Either monthly, although we talked about it before, but
yeah.
I told Denise the other day, I said, when my taxes come due, I'll be here.
Nothing wrong with that. You've got to come in to pay them.
That's right.
You could mail them too as well.
I like to come see you.
Oh, okay.
That'd be October though, you might be in Florida.
You'll get your bill before that.
And we are greatly indebted to you for letting us do that. It has definitely saved the users of the town
A lot of
a
money.
lot of money,
Yep.
so.
Well, keep me posted,
I will.
you know, if I could just know where you're standing, what's happening. And
Yep.
if you take your pump, so be it. As long as you don't screw up my hole, I mean, that will be some compensation if I have the hole there, you know?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And there's no value for you for anybody to mess that up.
Well, the hole isn't going anywhere because
Yeah.
being a public source of water, that pipe that got driven into the ground had to be cemented in place.
Yeah,
So there isn't anybody that I know of that's gonna pull that out of there. So,
but once you get your water done, once you get your well done, if you feel at that time that that the town should act or should do something, or the water department
Yep.
should do something,
there is a water
It's a-
committee.
because
and
right now, what is gonna happen if I have to have that 200-foot isolation zone around there, which I'm sure that, know about eminent domain anyway, so I'm not gonna be here to beat anybody, right? But that's really, getting right into that lot in pretty good shape. That's quite a circle, 200-foot circle.
It is.
You're talking,
In fact, you can just stand at the road and see the well, and it's gonna be, again, that much going the
Yeah.
other way, so.
Yeah.
and you'd never be able to build above that because you'd have septic problems once I gave up that right, to that. Right now, I have no problem because it's a holding tank, your reservoir. But if the town got a water supply out of there, you're not gonna put a septic tank on top of that hill and let it get down to although it's 1,000-foot deep.
I think that's what the 200-foot rule
Is it?
is supposed to
Yeah.
protect.
But
that
how much
source.
land an acre's 207, 208 feet
212.
square?
212,
Is it 212?
something like that.
Yeah,
So many rods,
Yeah.
figures out about 212.
so, good,
Yeah, they call that a shadow area for leaching. so.
yeah.
And we are definitely willing to work with you
Great.
on whatever. And if it's, a land purchase, that is something that we call a special board meeting. We'd have the water board here and you. It would be held in executive session, because land deals are an executive session issue, so that we can speak frankly.
Very good. I'll sit tight and listen.
All right? But we will be done using it January 1.
One way or another.
That's right around the corner.
I
Yeah.
know.
It's not far
That's
away.
why as we're moving, because once that's done, we're hauling water again unless we get another source of water, so.
The reason we were allowed to keep using it is because we had this other in progress.
Right.
And we
We
were,
have a bond, a grant,
but we were in an emergency situation too.
right,
That's
an emergency situation.
You have a grant, you said?
We're working on a grant,
Oh, I see.
USDA grant.
yeah, for these wells held back.
Currently, we have applied to the Vermont EPA drinking water, whatever, loan thing to pay these people. And then once the wells have been put online and identified for a good source of water, then it goes through Ashley Lutz and what can the state do to help us back on the project. So, yep,
Very good, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
And if you need something to tide you over, I'd be more than willing to lend you something.
I could use, always could use it.
I had to say that, I'm sorry.
You
I
didn't
know
say
different.
what.
What?
You didn't say what you
No,
funded.
I know different anyway, but
Probably got a good bottle of scotch, I'll let you have some.
I could do that.